welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns. Welcome to show number 36 of Keto Life Support. Today we're doing a show about New Year's. 2021 is on the horizon, and my good buddies, Louise, Matt, John, Daisy, and Terry, we're all getting together for this episode. It's actually a crossover episode, again, with Daisy's podcast, Keto Woman Podcast. And we're just talking about what's coming up, what we're hoping for in 2021, what we're thinking about. Again, sort of like the Christmas episode. It's just a time to get together with some of your keto fam through your earbuds and have some keto talk. But more, it's less about keto and more just about some people who care about each other. And we hope you enjoy a slightly voyeuristic moment of our holiday chit chat. Take care and enjoy the episode. So on the last episode, we talked about how 2020 went for us in our interesting year. And this time, we want to dive deeper into what's coming for us in 2021. Obviously, we're kind of guessing, but we have some desires, assumptions, hopes, and dreams that we're going to talk about today. So as we jump into 2021, I'd love to hear from Terri about what she hopes to see happening this year.
Well, I guess as I kind of talked about 2020 being a bit challenging for me health-wise, I'm looking forward to 2021 with health improvements. I started working with a new health practitioner, going to work on some different layers of my health and hope that that brings some results. And although there's nothing debilitating or serious going on with my health in those ways, there are things going on that just make my energy levels really challenging for me, make maintaining or not gaining weight super challenging for me. I typically am someone who fasts quite a bit. It's making fasting very difficult. So I'm hoping that some positive changes on the health horizon help my just functioning to feel better. Maybe help me get back into feeling comfortable exercising again. And I look forward to the podcast I'm doing with Daisy, continuing that. I'm afraid at some point we're going to run out of topics and we're just going to have to start going back. But so looking forward to that.
I feel like that sometimes.
Is it just you two on every? I apologize because I haven't listened to them and I apologize. But is it just you guys on every one, or do you have guests?
It is. No,
nope,
it's just us.
Oh yeah,
But it's about mindset, and really, the reality is there's 20,000 different ways to look at every single mindset concept. So
exactly,
it will just get very, very detailed.
Yeah, get in the weeds.
And repetitive in that way, and just trying to make that not, it's like, okay, I know we've talked about this 24 times before, but here's another way to look at it. Yeah. It gets a little complicated.
But somebody's going to be like, it wasn't until you said blah, blah, blah that I finally got it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And look at all the books on psychology and makeup of the mind, the elasticity and stuff. You can go on and on for years with the podcast.
Yeah.
You two might get bored, but your audience probably won't.
So, I'm looking forward to that continuing. And I hope that as conditions change at all related to COVID, that maybe I start to meet some more people here, get a little more connected to this community. Who knows? I'll probably move again at some point this year. And so maybe this will be my time to explore where I go next. Look out, Kim. The Bay Area is looking pretty good. I think there will be some significant changes coming in 2021. And as far as on the work front, it's a little unknown. I just think there's always opportunity to keep expanding what I'm doing right now. So I just see that as kind of an open field of possibility.
And all the drama you had getting your car back up to speed, it'd be nice to be able to go out on it a bit more, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be.
Oh, I forgot about that. Ugh.
I don't know if Terry's going to end up moving overseas again, at least not with a car.
Well, there have been many hours spent researching living outside of the U.S. And it's still on the horizon, but I doubt that it'll happen this year. But I also have an old enough car now that if I were to move outside of the U.S., I think the car would just go. Not with me. It would
Right.
It would be sold.
The car could stay.
That's right. The car will stay. Yeah, I think 2021 it will be a great year.
Terry, something that actually you and Daisy both said is about what we focus on. Daisy was talking about her house and falling back in love with a house. And I've kind of been doing the same thing around here. It's like you switch the focus from, oh, this is wrong with the house and, this is leaking, that needs to be replaced. And you start doing little things and you're like, oh, this is really nice. And you kind of have that gratitude for where you're living and, the things that you do have in your life.
Yeah.
How are your chickens, John?
The chickens are doing well. That's one of the things that I was able to do in 2020. I made a run for them, so I could still go out there every day and let them out after I know the fox has been through for his breakfast, and then I let them out. Been working on the kitchen. Matt and I replaced a light that's been down for at least a decade because the ceiling was wet there, and eventually the whole thing just fell, and it was at a party, so I stuck up a temporary solution that had been there for 10 years.
There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on in my house, yeah.
Eric and I have painted our apartment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We redid a bathroom. Yeah. There's just, go to Home Depot and you see that everybody's doing projects,
Yeah.
Everyone's doing projects.
I finally got all the hideous, well, no, there's still one section, but I've got most of the hideous wallpaper off the kitchen walls from the previous owners.
And he's got faux brick that he's tackling in the backsplash, which is just, I don't know who thought faux brick in the kitchen was a good idea, but
Oh, no.
yeah. So John's coming up with plans to get rid of it.
Temporary solutions.
Yeah. Right.
It's funny, too, that you've lived with these things this way for so long. And then once you're there more and your environment might even become more important during a time like this, then you say, okay, how do I want my environment to be?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that you're taking this time to make that space feel even better to you.
My addition was I bought him a router. Every time you go to his house, he's like, my computer dropped, my stereo doesn't work. And I'm like, let's get you some Wi-Fi up in here. And so now that, because he works from home, so that makes life easier. We have music when we listen over there and cook and stuff. So that was my fix for him.
Bianca has been still a pain here. Like I was trying to connect to it this morning so I could turn music on for Milo while I went to get my hair cut, and I could not get my phone, the remote on my phone, to connect to the stereo. So I just turned it off. I'm still like, sorry, Milo, no music.
I love that you play music for your puppy.
Yeah, we do it too.
A lot of people swear by music or the radio. And I think
something talking, yeah.
A lot of people took heed. I'm absolutely going to put it down to it being my top tip, I think, from last year to get a dog. I seem to remember was my top tip. That seems to have been one of the favourite things for 2020 was getting a dog. All my family have dogs now in the UK anyway, not in Thailand, but my brother and family got one, and my sister had already actually ordered a Whippet puppy, and they just about got him before lockdown started. And my brother's dog Ziggy was a sort of mid lockdown, in that period of time where it lifted enough for you to do a few things before they locked down again. But I think there are massive waiting lists and things at a lot of the shelters. A lot of people have been getting dogs, haven't they?
Yeah.
Really enjoying just those homegrown things. And, because it's also one of the things you're allowed to do, isn't it? Go out, take dogs for a walk. So.
Yeah. Well, and if you have a puppy and are not home, you're in for bad times.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways. Like, it would be a good time to have, a baby, except then no one can come over and help you. But a puppy you can handle on your own better than an infant, I think. So it's a much better choice to get a quarantine puppy than a quarantine infant.
And all they want from you is food, water, exercise, and a lot of love.
Yeah.
And for
and
them,
for you
it's
not
been
to leave the house.
Exactly. So perfect year for dogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are those memes, weren't there, where there's a dog saying it's just wonderful, and the cats are like, oh, when is this going to be over? We want you out the house.
And so far, I think as far as we know, they're not carriers of the virus, or we don't have to worry about them getting the virus so much. So easier than bringing another person into the home as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Wasn't there talk at one point about cats being carriers? I seem to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they've found there's no cat to human transmission.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Kind of like cat, whatever, HPV or cat AIDS. Just they keep it to themselves.
Exactly.
stays within the species.
So what about you, John? What's 2021 looking like for you?
What the heck year is it?
I'm looking forward to 2021. I think that the environment in which we're living will improve within the next month or so. I think that things that have not been taken seriously are going to start to be taken seriously, such as climate change and COVID. In general, I think that is just hopeful for the U.S. as well as the world. And for me as an individual, I have to say that that's part of the despair of 2020 is to have leadership that wasn't. I don't want to make it political, but to have leadership that wasn't there and to create hostility within citizens, and even about something as stupid as wearing a mask. It's just a shame to have seen that. So I'm very much hopeful for 2021 and having new leadership. I'm hopeful for 2021 as well because I was peeling that wallpaper off the kitchen walls, and I get a text from a friend who is actually starting a team at a new company, and he texted me and asked if I wanted to be a part of that. So I have a talk with his manager on Monday. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity.
Exciting.
As well as the opportunity to continue to do the stuff that we're doing with Nature's Jam. It's exciting to have the orders coming in. Matt and I took some pictures with candy canes the other day to have like a featured scent of the month for lip balm. And I'm looking forward to doing more things with keto. And I think one of the things that, not that I think, it's like 2020 has seen me eating a lot more sweets and drinking a lot more beer. And I can feel it in my body. I had 2 low carb beers yesterday, and I woke up this morning feeling like I had like a 6-pack of regular beer. And I'm like, wow, that's not pleasant. So I am looking to get more strict into keto because I think that when I feel good about what I'm doing physically, it makes me feel better mentally as well. Gives me more energy and just the mental clarity and stuff.
It sounds like you're going to need it if you've got new things on the horizon.
I'm looking forward to the new things on the horizon. I'm looking forward to positive change. I think that we can make it a better year than the past one has been.
Hope so.
Yeah, I think even if 2021 is not exactly, but if the environment of 2021 is the exact same environment of 2020, I feel like we have a much better chance of doing a better job with it because we learned a lot last year and we can go into,
some of us.
Well, those of us that learned a lot last year have a much better chance of enjoying our 2021.
Yes.
You're right. I think hopeful's a good word to use, actually.
Yeah, I think it's like long term you look, but then I've got the same part of me. It's like Terry says, like, it's not like, January 1st comes, you snap your finger and everything is better. So you have to kind of rein that in and realistically set your hopes for where we are because we've still got a tough, slog through this winter here. And then we want to hope it's the spring, that we get, the vaccine and people kind of are able to get out and be around each other once again. Like, I guess I'll jump in since we're here. My oldest daughter is, as of now, things could change, but she's slated to move on campus in the spring, which is nice. She gets everybody gets a single, so she gets her own room on campus. I live in the town that the college is in. My wife works at it, so she's very excited about that. For the kids in regular school, they've offered them mixed education if you want to try coming in. Again, this is all based on how we handled this winter. My youngest daughter wants to start going to school. My middle daughter says she absolutely has no reason at all to go in. She's happy with remote. So there'll be changes and people interacting, and we're looking at, is it safe to have volleyball practice if there's less people and there's no parents and stuff to bring normalcy to the kids' life because, we can rationalize this as much, we can make it a little bit more reasonable as grown-ups, but as children, I think a lot that this is a lot to foist upon children, this whole situation of, the animosity between certain groups in America and then the pandemic and and everything. So I'm hoping that for them that we can kind of unite as a people of the world and kind of fix things and get back on track. And like John said, focus on things that we need to focus on, like climate change and food issues and stuff for people. So I'm very optimistic.
I do think often, or maybe not often enough, but I think I am very lucky to not have to worry about kids in my household during this pandemic time, because as an adult, right, we can deal. And it's not the same thing. But I think, one, trying to navigate a household that includes children as the adult is stressful. And then worrying about the environment your kids are in is the big deal stress. And so I feel for you in your life. And I think so many parents are doing such an amazing job of navigating such an uncertain time. And if I have anything to say to parents out there in the world, with my totally unqualified opinion, is like, I really respect that you're succeeding to any degree. Like, just getting through the day is such a success when there's so much going on. I hear so many people feeling like they're failing around their kids. And I just want to put out there that I think you guys who are navigating this time with children are just such rock stars and doing such an amazing job.
Absolutely agree.
It's interesting. It's interesting for sure, yeah.
Also, parents who happen to be teachers as well.
Oh,
and
goodness,
we have
yeah.
several friends, and they get hit from both sides. And, there are some parents who blame it on the teachers, everything that, the whole learning situation, and the teachers are in this just like everybody else. Yeah. And they have kids of their own.
In their own house.
Right. They have to coach in their own teaching and then plus teach their own classes. So kudos to all of them.
Yeah. Having seen the remote learning, yes, kudos to teachers, because it's to come up so quickly with a plan. And it's not the best. I've seen the classes, but they're learning, and different things. You've got to get them to focus. But I agree. I think everyone's really busting through this, teachers and parents and everything. And hopefully the light is at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train, right?
They seem to have been a bit on a roller coaster, teachers, as well. First of all, they were sort of lauded as saints and everyone thought they were amazing. And then there was a real backlash and they got a load of grief from all sides. It's been, we could talk about any group of people, I guess, and say it's been a really difficult year for them.
Grocery store workers.
Exactly. As Matt's daughter is working in a grocery store. I mean, it's those of us that are able to kind of stay at home and do our job from home and still have a job.
The lucky ones.
Many people are losing their jobs. The economy is definitely an issue. I mean, this is different in different countries, how they responded to this. And, it's still very much up in the air in the United States at the time of this recording anyway, what's going to happen going into 2021 on that front. And, I just think, the other day I posted something that was basically like, we're all in this together. And somebody was angry, because they were just frustrated. Are we really all in this together? Like, I'm in this situation, you're in this situation. And, they weren't angry at me. They were just frustrated at the world. And, I guess what I started thinking, I saw some quote and I'm going to butcher it because I don't really remember it exactly, but like, we're not all in the same boat, but we all are in the same ocean.
I saw that, or in the same storm. I saw that one.
In the same storm or whatever. Right. Yeah. So we're not, granted, we're all in the same boat is the actual expression, but we are all dealing in different ways with some of our boats have a hole in them. Some of us have a luxury yacht. We all have this different thing, but we're all in the same environment. And, it is our job, just like if you were actually in a ship or a boat, when the storm comes in, you have to watch your neighbor's boat. You have to, look out over the horizon and let people know what's coming and be ready to help. Even if you're not in the same boat, you are on the same sea in the same storm. And we need to be there for each other in the ways that we can.
Need to be, much more community-minded and much less individualistic.
And it's a funny time because everything we're doing is very individualistic. Right? We're in our own home. We're isolating, but you have to put your little feelers out and make sure you know how other people are doing in their own little pods. And I just think we're so lucky that the internet exists now. we can go to school at home.
Yeah.
We can do our job at home. I mean, most of us, not all of us. A lot of us can do these things. And I can talk to Daisy in France right now, and how much more isolated we would feel, as frustrated as we get with spending all of our time staring at our computer. And it's important to not just do that. You know, it's been such a lifeline for us in
Kim,
the world.
it's funny. I think that we isolated ourselves with the computer and stuff, where now we're using that same technology to reach back out to people and make those connections.
Yeah, I think it really goes to show that it's not about the tool. It's about how you use it. It's not the technology. It's the user and their intention.
So what about you, Kim? What's on the agenda for your 2021?
Well, you know, I don't think I really talked about this in the last show, but in 2020, I actually spent a lot of my focus on working on my own health journey and my continued desire to lose more body fat. And so that was a big focus in 2020, and it's going to continue to be in 2021. I did, lose 20 pounds last year. That was a big deal for me because I had been in a long stall.
That's a lot.
And, this year would be lovely to repeat the experience. And I've learned so much about how to make that needle move in complex situations, which, I am a complex person. So if it can be hard, I will be there. If it can be challenging. I was thinking the other day, I don't just ride the struggle bus. I drive the struggle bus, right? I'm fully there. It was a funny thing. I was thinking every job I've ever had that I've been good at was something I was bad at. If that makes sense. My first job, serious job, was I taught people how to take standardized tests, and I was complete crap at teaching how to take standardized tests because I'm good at standardized tests. I'm well, you just look at the answers and you pick the right one. That is how you take a standardized test. And they're no, how? And it's well, you just know, right? And so I realized, if I don't struggle, I don't have anything to teach you. And so from there forward, I was a professional organizer for a while because I have a tendency towards disorder, but I love order. So I had to learn how to take my natural disorganized tendencies and make them work to create the effect I wanted. And so I got really good at teaching how to become organized. And just the same thing, I am not naturally good at losing weight. So I have to learn how to to do it, and then deal with complex situations where it's this thing is not working the way everyone says it should work. And what do I do then? So I've embraced complicated. And so, this year I'm hoping to continue that trend. I also have a new course coming out in January that I'm excited about, which is on this very topic of how to do this when this is hard in terms of keto and fat loss, and really diving into, cause so often you hear these top 10 reasons you're not losing weight on keto. There are all these little soundbite, little posts and videos and YouTubes and blogs. And every time I'm tell me something I don't know. You read, I don't know if you ever have this. I'm yes, thank you, Captain Obvious. I've tried those things. It's still not working. So, I had to dive deeper and figure out what actually success looked like for me. So I'm going into 2021 with that knowledge and kind of a growth mindset around all the things I still don't know and what I can learn on my journey, and very excited to be in a place where I have sort of renewed faith and hope on my keto low carb journey that had been, I think last year, Daisy mentioned that she had a kind of a down time, and I did too. And I think part of it was that I was starting to lose faith in myself. When you're not seeing what you want to see, even though you think, gosh, I can't imagine what I'm not doing, it's important to not lose hope. But it's a lot easier to feel hope when you see some results of your actions. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going into 2021 with that kind of renewed faith, and also just some understanding that my life is what I make it, and I'm excited about what I can make. And
you put a lot of work into changing the structure and the way you deliver that information and help other people with your membership site.
It's true.
So presumably you're looking to really grow and develop that in 2021 too, because it was more sort of not the tail end of 2020, but it's something you were developing over the year, wasn't it? That must be really getting ready to run now.
Yeah, I have a program on how to lose body fat when losing body fat is not your forte. And then I have this membership, and the membership really is sort of a safe place to land for people because they're just lovely people in there and support each other. And I think in this time of isolation, it's even more important to find your little pods, your little communities, and, seeing people just every day, like I'm having a crap day. I mean, not that I'm excited people are having a crap day, but that people come forward and say, I'm having a crap day. And like 30 people are like, what do you need? Do you want to hop on the phone? What's happening? Because they're so connected to each other is just, it's done my heart so much good that can exist in the world. And, all I do is keep the balloon in the air. It's the wonderful people in the group who really make it what it is. But, I just provide a location for the party.
Fantastic. What about you, Louise?
So 2021, I'm actually really optimistically excited that borders are going to open up. And I'm really hoping to venture, back first of all to Australia and catch up with the family. And hopefully that can happen without quarantining in Australia for 2 weeks and then quarantining back here in Thailand. I'm certainly optimistic. Hopefully there will be a travel bubble in Southeast Asia. My focus certainly for 2021 is still to be able to travel around and to get to know Thailand more intimately, within the domestic travel region. My wish is just to sort of be able to check off a few other places that I'd like to see, like Cambodia and Laos and Myanmar. So hopefully that will happen once we have the travel bubble arrangements.
Have you not been able to get back to Australia at all yet then, since you moved to Bangkok?
Well, no, because lockdown happened in March and then the borders shut. So Australia shut the borders in March. Even though they allowed for repatriation flights, the exemptions and the applications for like family reunions was on a case-by-case basis. As much as they were willing to do that, then the restricted flights, so flights and seats were only limited to about 30 people per aircraft, and those aircraft then had to come out of, obviously, Bangkok or Hong Kong, those sorts of things. So then it became a very competitive process to be able to get on a repatriation flight. And that's why we still have about 20 or 30,000 Australians stuck overseas.
Wow.
Well, and then there's the queue to get back in, isn't there? My dad was saying the other day that there's a massive queue of people waiting to come back into Thailand.
They're just opening up now with, say, special occupational visas for teachers, because teachers are international schools. So they are accepting applications to come into the country. So it wouldn't be a problem for me to return. And this was the thing about going home for the holidays. So it would be 2 weeks to quarantine for maybe a week's holiday, and then 2 weeks to quarantine back here in Thailand in state or alternate state quarantine as well. So I had to weigh up the pros and cons going back to see family. So missing another Christmas this year with family. So, but that's just what it is, right? So just being mindful that it is what it is, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that. Potentially Australia's vaccine program is happening, in the first quarter of the year. So hopefully that will happen here in Thailand, and then I can get out and maybe get home as well for a visit.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying you were looking forward to certain things on the work front?
Yes. So on the work front, so I'm still doing my college professor role, and I'm doing that online and I'm doing that remotely, which I'm very grateful to, at this time have a job. and some great opportunities. I can networking my way into the UN and the World Health Organization, and NGOs as well. So really giving me some international experience, which I'm, really going to be looking optimistically forward to exploring. How I can use my pre-hospital public health experience here as well. So in the NGO humanitarian space. Yeah, so watch out for 2021 for that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and the podcast as well. So that's going fabulously, Keto.
Yeah, how's that going? You having fun with that?
Yeah, gangbusters. The recordings and really having a great time interviewing, that lived experience, as hearing about all those fabulous people, and their experiences with a wealth of knowledge. And that's just been a real asset to pay it forward, our lived journeys and sharing those experiences with the listeners as well.
You're supremely organised as well. They're recording. So if they're recording now and it won't come out for about sort of 3 or 4 months down the line, much more organised than I am.
Yeah, so the podcast is, as you said, going gangbusters. And we're very, very organised. And that's thanks to my co-host, Jackie Fletcher. So she's the more organised one of the, I'm just the plucky sidekick larrikin. So, and I had to explain what a larrikin was. That's an Australian term for, the comic relief. So I'm just the comic relief. So
yeah, I was like, you're going to have to explain it.
Yeah, you're going to have to explain that to us too. Is larrikin a person? Is it an animal? Where is this term coming from?
That's completely Australian, isn't it? That's not familiar to me as a Brit either.
Yeah, larrikin is must be an Australian term. It's an adjective, so it describes a characteristic or a persona or a characteristic personality trait.
I'm going to need to Google.
Like comic relief?
Oh, so you're a larrikin person. I assumed when you said a larrikin, it was like a larrikin. So it was like a noun, not an adjective.
Yeah, it describes the character, larrikin in nature.
Right, okay.
Hey, look at that. A person given to comic or outlandish behavior. I'm going to file that one away. I like that. Larrikin.
The origin of larrikin was a young hoodlum or hooligan from the early 19th and 20th century.
I like it.
I'm going to incorporate that into my vocabulary.
Youthful rowdyism.
That's me. I have some youthful.
Definitely some rowdyism.
Rowdyism.
Exactly, yeah, that's quite fitting.
Just the comic relief. I'm the sidekick, the plucky sidekick larrikin.
Hey, Daisy, how about 2021 for you?
Well, it's kind of a whole lot of unknown in many ways, kind of known and unknown. As I mentioned before, it's a big change for me, moving from France. I've been here for 17 years.
Wow.
Back to the UK. So that's going to be a lot of adjustment, not only in my own little environment, but just culturally, sort of, getting used to being. I've never felt like I've really left. I've always kept a foot firmly in the UK, carried on watching British TV and really, connecting with, never really felt like I left. Although I've been living in France, I've never sort of fully integrated here. So I've always sort of had a bit of a foot in either place. So it'll be nice to have both feet firmly back on British soil and really try and connect a lot more with the communities there. I've made some connections with going to things like the PhD conferences and stuff like that, but I've always had that sort of felt that slight disconnect because I wasn't living there. So I feel like I can fully embrace that. And I've been thinking along the lines of, especially as I mentioned before, going to be living in a completely different environment in a very big town. Actually thinking about things like, once we're able to, of course, having, starting a local low carb keto group, because there'll actually be people who might want to come to it. Whereas, where I live in France, there just isn't really anybody. So there are all these sort of potential opportunities and unknowns. And so I'm excited and also very nervous about how that's all going to be, really. But just mostly, I guess, really looking forward to being closer to Mostly my family, also reconnecting with old friends and all sorts of things. You know, it's an area, the area I'm moving to on the south coast, Hastings, I used to live about half an hour's drive away, and I used to go down there quite often. Drive down there in my car when I had freedom. But I've got some old friends in the area that I've kept in touch with, but looking forward to reconnecting with, to being able to, you know, I'm going to be able to see them more often, and getting to see my family in particular. I mean, when I get to see them, it have been over a year. That's not so bad with the grown-ups, but, you know, my nephews and niece, at that sort of young age, you know, they're all that round about 5, varying in different directions. But you can imagine they're going to have changed so much in a year. So it's going to be nice to be able to see them more often, to be able to go to their birthday parties and things, rather than just go for my week's visit a couple of times a year. So they're all the things I'm looking forward to. But yeah, all sorts of unknowns apart from that. But I'm excited.
Yeah, you've got an adventure ahead of you, it feels like.
Exactly. That's exactly what it feels like. Which, you know, when you've got something that's a really big change like that, there's sort of half of you that's really excited about it, and there's the other half of you that's completely terrified. So that's the bit I'm in, you know, especially with things like my dogs. I'm worried about how they're going to settle in, especially with ultra nervous Rocket and things. But I know that everything will work out. But yeah, I'm one of those people who's kind of optimistic and, I'll find a way to make it work. But also very worried about it, because I do like to, although I'm quite disorganized, what you were saying, Kim, I like order, and I like to be able to plan something, and I like to know what's going to happen. I don't really like the unknown, so it's a challenge.
I get that.
Yeah.
I just looked up Hastings online. It looks very cool. I didn't realize it would look like that. You guys have like a little carnival down on the water?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's one of those places a lot of the places on the south coast, they're just part of a long line. I talk about Hastings as sort of dead ending. Of course, it doesn't dead end because the coast carries on going round. But you've got the big cliffs. What I mean by when I say dead end is that you can't just keep on walking along the beach. They've got the cliffs and things, and it gets cut off when the tide comes in. Very varied landscape. You know, there's a working fishing fleet, for example. There are the old fishing huts. There are 2, very embarrassed. I joined some local Facebook groups to start chatting with people. I've got to say, they've just been so helpful, you know, asking all those sort of questions about things that, you know, that you might need, but just making some friends and finding out about some things. And they've got a lovely funicular that goes up one of the cliffs. All this time that I've known Hastings, I didn't know there were actually 2 funicular railways in Hastings, so I was very embarrassed about that.
I was just looking at that. I was going to ask you about that.
That's right.
Wow, that's cool.
And there are actually 2, and there's all sorts of things. And the Hastings that I remember, which is the Hastings of 20 plus years ago, is now a very different place. There's an art gallery, and there's an art cinema and a theatre and a normal cinema and all sorts of things. So I'm very excited about exploring a new town and all the takeaways. I had a wander around the neighbourhood on Street View, and Indian restaurants and Sri Lankan and Nepalese, and looking at all the menus and figuring out what the keto things were I could eat. And because I like those, some spicy foods and different things. So, all sorts of things to look forward to. But very nerve-wracking too.
I want to go to Hastings.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, provided that travel restrictions are lifted in the new year, we should try like low-carb Hastings.
Absolutely.
Look at the pictures. It's gorgeous.
And right? I do have a spare room. It's fantastic.
But all 5 of us will not fit in the spare room at the same time. It's unfortunate.
I don't know.
We'll have to rent a flat.
Can make it work.
We've made worse things work.
Yeah, all I need is a cot or a...
Oh my God, do you remember those cots where we tried to... And then make you guys sleep?
Down in the basement of the house with the smell.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Mildew Manor.
Mildew Manor.
Yeah, they wanted us... Where were we? We were supposed to be down in the basement, weren't we, Kim? It was just No.
Yeah, and then we moved, and so we then dragged the mattresses upstairs to try and make a nice place for the boys, and then anyway, luckily the boys had a tent.
Yeah.
And it was warm.
Well,
John went out in the yard,
yeah, just the first night. Then the second night we got the hotel room, which I wish that we had done that from the get-go because
I know.
it makes it so
It
much
was
more convenient, or made it so much
better.
more convenient to work
Yeah.
because we were right there.
But I was just so confused because we turned up there. It was dark by the time we got there, wasn't it, Kim? We'd been delayed all the way.
We kept thinking there was a room missing.
Yeah.
We were like, there's supposed to be another bedroom. Where is this other bedroom? And we kept looking for the other bedroom, and we figured out it was the basement.
Yeah. But we turned up and we'd been given the details of the house we were going to be in, and it was supposed to be, it was on the beach. And when we turned up, I thought, well, this doesn't look like it's close to the beach. And I sort of peered outside in the dark, got very excited going out in the morning to see if I could see the beach. And it was a different house.
I think you missed a communication when you were doing the transatlantic flight that we had changed locations. But yeah, it was an adventure.
It was.
But yes, I will say that the local Holiday Inn, though ridiculously price gougey for the convention, was a much more convenient spot to be.
Very, very, wasn't it? Made all the difference.
Yeah.
So it's top tip time. This is a big one. This is 2020 into 2021 top tip. So what have you got for us? Who wants to go first? Kim?
My top tip, as often as we do these shows, you'd think I actually would prepare to have a top tip for this part, but instead I prefer to carry on with my seat of pants preparation approaches. I really think, though, my top tip is a theme that I've been talking about, which is focus on what you have, not what you don't have. It's so important to me in my life. You can strive for more without hating what you have or blaming yourself for not yet having it. One of the things I have a lot in my coaching with people is, maybe they fell off the wagon, although I don't love that expression. They did choose to step off of the wagon. And then they go on to spend the next few months beating themselves up and then failing again because of how they are beating themselves up, that they've disappointed themselves. And I think instead, when we set ourselves up for these expectations of how we're supposed to behave or what we're supposed to have, just this whole area of expectations, I think it's good to have standards. I think it's good to have guidelines. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when we judge ourselves or we judge our circumstance as bad or wrong or not good enough, and we live in disappointment instead of living in better every day and the hope for the future, I think we just set ourselves up to have a miserable life and also just to do really poorly. I feel like I could probably have said that in a much more succinct way. I really rambled.
No, I get it. It's true stuff.
But I think that if I've learned anything in my coaching career, which actually started way before keto, to be honest, I've been a coach for over a decade, is that most of my job as a coach is to stop people from being just awful to themselves.
Yeah, sabotage.
People are so mean to themselves, and it's heartbreaking to hear that so often, how hard people are on themselves and how they treat them like you would call the police if your partner treated you the way that you treat yourself. So I get a little rambly on this topic, but the reality is, like, this is your only life. And if you don't love something, change it, but don't beat yourself up until it's better. Like, the beatings will continue until morale improves does not work.
Right.
It does not work with other people, and it doesn't work with yourself. You can love yourself and want something to be different. You can be proud that you have a high school diploma and still want a college degree, right? You can want something different, but still love what you've got so far. And I think if I could give, I've circuitously found my top tip here. I think if my top tip could be like, stop being such an asshole to yourself. Just stop it. Like, you are worthy of kindness in every moment. And yeah, sure, you could have a little more discipline. You could be a little more directed. There's a lot of things you could do to improve your life, but being mean to yourself is not the way to get there.
Accept where you are. Be kind to yourself. Accept where you are.
Yeah.
Appreciate where you are, and then improve.
Yeah. It's okay to want more. Just don't treat yourself like a failure for not having it yet.
Good top tip.
Yeah.
So what about you, John?
Well, as we reflected on 2020 and talked about looking forward to 2021, I think that there was a common theme, and I think that Kim just summed it up there. Be grateful for where you are. Be grateful for those that you have in your life. My top tip is, I'm going to paraphrase, it was a line in a Christmas card that I just loved it. I cut it out. It's on my Post-it board in the kitchen. I'm going to change it up a little bit. So my top tip is to see the beauty all around you and feel happiness in your heart and bring joy into the world. We talked about it before, I think, on the last podcast that we did as a group. Be the change that you want to make or that you want to see happen. And I think the last time I said, be kind to others, open the door for them. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. So it's like bring that joy into the world that you want to see.
Fabulous. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think mine kind of ties in with both of theirs too. And I figured this out because it's such a cliche thing. When I quit drinking, is take things a day at a time. If I got up that day that I started and I said, I'm never going to drink again in my life, that's a big ask. So I say, I'm not going to drink today. Or, if you're me, I'm not going to have a snack today, whatever it is. And then when you go to bed at the end of the day, that was a victory. And then you get up again the next day and you fight the good fight again. And it makes it manageable. And eventually it just becomes a part of who you are and the days start to blend together. But in the end, I'm not doing something today. And that, as cliche as it sounds, it rung true, so I've not drank for 460 days, one day at a time.
Fantastic.
And it makes things way more manageable, and you could apply it to so many things. Like Kim said, don't give up on good in the pursuit of perfect. And, like John says, give out good things that you want to see. And that's what you wake up that day and say, I'm going to do this, and then at the end of the day, if it helps you, congratulate yourself that you did it, and that helps your well-being, especially in these times when it's easy to get down. But that's my tip, is take it one day at a time and break things into manageable chunks. And life seems to work a lot easier that way.
Hey, Matt, I was recently introduced to the 5 principles of Reiki, and I actually introduce them every morning when I let the dog out. I'll just go through the principles and just say them either in my head or out loud. Just for today. Everyone starts with that. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I will be grateful for the many blessings in my life. Just for today, I will be kind to every living thing.
Yeah. Very good things.
Love it.
Yeah.
One thing at a time, or just for today.
One day at a time.
Yeah.
That's it.
I may fail, but just for today, that's my goal.
Right.
Now, at the same time, I'm playing the long game.
Right. Oh, yes. But take it one day at a time, just for today.
Yeah. I can see way down the road, but, I'm going to take that step today. So
Yeah, but, a journey is a day. Everything is a day at a time. If you don't get through today, you're not going to have tomorrow. So if you can get through today, you have some hope for tomorrow. And it's also, I think on the flip side, a good thing in that, tomorrow is another day.
Yep.
And so nothing is permanent and you always have another chance and you can do it today.
Yeah. And back to what you said, Kim, is that if you do, because like when I started all this, I was like, well, maybe one day I'll slip up and something will happen. But say that was at day 1,000. That means for 999 days, I didn't do anything. And then one day I messed up. Well, guess what? Day 1001.
Fresh start.
Yeah.
Get right back on not doing it. You didn't fail. Don't wallow. It's hard. Just go, well, I shouldn't have done that. But I've been good 999 times out of 1,000. I'm going to stay good going forward, and don't beat yourself up. Don't use it as an excuse to do it again. If you had a snack, don't go, well, I had one yesterday. I'm going to have one today.
Right.
Just take the hit, move forward. Don't beat yourself up.
A 10-mile hike is a series of steps.
Yep.
One at a time.
And so what about you, Terry? What's your top tip for us?
So my top tip, I was thinking about whether to do something keto or food related or life related. And maybe there's a part of the keto in this for people, but I think my top tip about going from 2020 to 2021 is not to expect everything to suddenly become perfect. Because I think we have that kind of in our human nature that we look towards something changing that will make everything great. When I lose this weight, when I get this job, when I find this relationship. And I think oftentimes we even think of that as when this year ends and next year begins. You know, there's a renewal, people set resolutions and all those kinds of things. But I think sometimes we feel more defeated, as Kim talked about before, because we put our expectations that things are going to turn around so much. And this has been such a challenging year that I think there's a little bit of a risk of thinking it'll just change in 2021. Instead, to think about all that you've been learning, all the positive things that have been happening, and how you've grown this year to enter into 2021 just to make it a good year as well, rather than seeing it as this will be the turnaround. This will be what fixes 2020.
I like that. That was great.
So what about you, Louise? Top tip?
My top tip is to think about not exorcising 2020, but we need to embrace the 2020 experience. And this is because I think when we're thinking about, this year that's just gone past, there's so much, I suppose, emptiness and emotion that's connected with it in a negative sense. And I'm saying that we need to do the flip. So let's flip 2020 on its head and we embrace all those things that we did. We slowed down. We adapted. We're adapting virtually as we're doing this recording. And that then really made us think about valuing those social connections in our life. And that was a really important thing, how we missed people. We missed touch and those catch-ups. But we adapted, and that gave us, a sense of value. And I think that was really how we need to embrace our 2020 as we move forward into 2021 by reminding that we did these things and we achieved so much, and yeah, it was a crappy year and we're not going to get our time back, but we still gained so much and we need to appreciate and be mindful of that.
Like it.
That's a great one, Louise.
Yeah.
Daisy, what about you? Do you have a top tip? I know you're used to not having to have one, but because this is a crossover show, I'm taking over.
Uh-oh. Well, I guess very similar to Matt, actually. The thing that I have had to remind myself very much this year, and it's something I remind myself of almost every day, actually, is just keep plodding on. I'm one of these people who tends to look too much at the big picture. I look too much at everything that needs doing. It's all getting a bit tense with everything needing doing for the move. And I start writing lists in my head of all these things that need doing and everything needs doing and everything needs doing really quickly. And what happens when I do that?
Nothing gets done.
I shut down. I have to turn my brain off because it's making me crazy. And I end up doing a jigsaw online or something, or watching Netflix. And guess what? I get nothing done. Apart from, the good side of actually switching my brain off going down that track. But I get overwhelmed too easily. And I just have to quiet my brain down a bit and say, look, just keep plodding on. Don't beat yourself up if you don't get as much done as you wanted to get done that day. Whatever your lists were, just keep plodding on. As long as you're plodding forward a little bit at a time, it's better than standing still. And that's literally what I say to myself. Daisy, just keep plodding on. So that's my top tip.
Well, I think this was super fun to catch up with everybody. It's always so good to be with this group of people. I love how we came together because of keto, because our own individual journeys and our desire to be out there in the world helping other people with theirs. And now we just really are a family.
We really are, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. very close group. I appreciate you all very much.
Yes, I enjoy you all. I do. I really enjoy this group of people. I'm so glad we stay together because it's easy to, especially with this time, it's easy to just kind of drift away. And I'm glad that we don't, because I love you all.
Hopefully before long we can get together in person again.
Yes, absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
I love you guys, and my offer to Terry goes for you as well. Any holiday, you're welcome to be right here.
I know. If we could teleport, it would be so awesome.
Right?
Because the whole flying thing freaks me out a little bit right now.
Yeah.
That's the next invention that we need.
Right.
Yes, that would be very, very handy.
Right.
Someone come up with it, please.
Work on that, audience.
Come on.
All right. Well, it's been a wonderful rambling time, and I love you all, and I hope you have a fabulous 2021. I don't even know what year it is.
I wish you all the best, 2021, and everyone, all our friends at home too.
And everyone listening, thank you for indulging us and giving us a reason to get together. And we hope you are having a fabulous start of the new year.
Well, everybody, I really want to wish you all the best for the holiday season. So if you get a chance to see friends and family, I'll be living vicariously through you. Hopefully we'll be FaceTiming with family back in Australia. And also my wish for your 2021 is to be happy and healthy. I think that would be the best that we can come out of this, 2020 experience with an optimistic, happy and healthy wish for 2021.
So as I head out here, goodbye to everybody as we close up this episode. Goodbye to everyone here. Good to get to see the 5 of you again, and always good to catch up. And goodbye to everyone listening. Hope that your 2021 is already starting out really well for you, continuing on into where you want it to be. Bye.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us.